ASEAN-Japan partnership vital in navigating global poly crisis. On-demand van service to enhance public transport connectivity. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight. I'm Jessica Lee. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said ASEAN and Japan can collectively play a significant role within the global community towards achieving a peaceful and durable solution to the Israel-Hamas conflict.
On Gaza, Malaysia welcomes the adoption of the United Nations General Assembly resolution on 12 December 2023, supported by all ASEAN members and Japan, which demands a humanitarian ceasefire, humanitarian access, and the release of hostages. We, of course, in Malaysia condemn Israel's continued destruction of Gaza, atrocities that will only remind us of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Collectively, we must support efforts towards a peaceful and durable solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
The Premier said this in his remarks in the first agenda, themed Review of ASEAN-Japan Relations, and the second agenda, themed Partners for Peace and Stability and Regional and International Issues during the ASEAN-Japan Commemorative Summit today. Several ASEAN leaders, including Thai Prime Minister Seta Thavisin and Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, in their address during the agenda, also voiced their concern over Gaza and the need for an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar also said that given the ongoing global poly crisis and growing complexity in the 10-member grouping's strategic environment, the role of the ASEAN-Japan partnership in navigating these challenges is more crucial than ever. He said that close cooperation and many initiatives implemented through the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific and Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific reflect the strong commitment of both sides to deepen relations and maintain peace and stability in the region. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Anwar has proposed 4 areas of cooperation to expand and deepen collaboration within ASEAN to empower its people to be resilient and better able to address future challenges. He pointed out to ASEAN leaders and host Japan during the ASEAN-Japan Commemorative Summit that the 4 areas are public health, climate action, disaster management, and people-to-people exchanges. He said that drawing from the lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic, ASEAN and Japan must remain vigilant against future health crises. On climate action, he said ASEAN and Japan should continue to work closely to advance regional and national mitigation and adaptation strategies. He also said that ASEAN and Japan should seize on the momentous outcome of COP28, especially on the global stocktake, global goal on adaptation, and the loss and damage fund. On another note, the Premier said the region has seen a surge in extreme weather events, from droughts to floods and landslides, which call for his third point, disaster management. He said this is why Malaysia values Japan's contribution to operationalizing the ASEAN Coordinating Centre for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management. Datuk Seri Anwar called for deeper collaboration with Japan in ongoing efforts to establish permanent disaster relief centres, capitalizing on Japan's extensive experience and expertise in disaster risk reduction. 50 million ringgit has been allocated to strengthen public transportation services, especially in the Klang Valley area. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said some of the allocated amount will be used to add more bus-only routes and the number of buses under the Prasarana Malaysia Berhad. He said this is part of the government's efforts to make public transportation as the main transport mode, aside from increasing the efficiency of bus services.
Satu pilot project telah diadakan di Jalan Ampang, dan Jalan Ampang memang kita lihat ada keberkesanannya. Jumlah ridership telah bertambah untuk laluan tersebut, dan masa untuk bas memang berkurangan untuk sampai ke pusat bandaraya Kuala Lumpur. khususnya di kawasan KLCC.
In the meantime, Lok announced that an on-demand van transit service will be implemented in the Klang Valley area. Now, the focus will be in high-density areas where buses could not reach to increase the accessibility to other public transportation stations.
Umpamanya nak pergi ke stesen LRT, stesen monorail dan sebagainya, mereka boleh panggil ataupun demand perkhidmatan van itu. Dia macam e-hailing punya servis, dia akan pick up daripada rumah mereka.
The minister said more details regarding the service will be announced soon.
29
residents of 9 houses in Taman Wawasan Puchong have been instructed to evacuate their houses following the landslide incident yesterday. Serdang Police Chief Assistant Commissioner A. Anbalagan said it was believed that the incident was caused by heavy rain which triggered soil movement. According to him, the landslide incident also caused 4 vehicles to be buried, but no casualties have been reported so far.
Majlis Bandaraya telah menempatkan atau menyediakan satu pusat pemindahan sementara di mana hanya satu keluarga seramai 8 orang telah berpindah ke pusat pemindahan sementara tersebut. Manakala 8 lagi penghuni telah berpindah ke rumah saudara ataupun rakan mereka lah. Tadi pihak MBSJ melalui pejabat kejuruteraan mereka MBSJ dan pihak Jabatan Mineral dan Geosains ada berada di sini. So kita menunggu laporan daripada mereka secara khusus.
He added 375 iron piles are being installed at the site to prevent further soil movement in the area, while water and electricity supply to the area had also been cut. The installation of the iron piles is expected to be completed in 2 weeks. The body of a 14-year-old boy who was reported missing while bathing in a canal at Indra Sempurna on Friday was found this morning. Pahang Fire and Rescue Department, or JBPM, Public Relations Officer Zulfadli Zakaria said the body of Muhammad Amirul Haikal Cik Japa was found at 10:22 a.m. by the water rescue team. The body was found 1.6 kilometers away from the last seen location. Pahang Fire and Rescue Department Director Datuk Wan Muhammad Zaidi Wan Isa said the body was stuck at a tree when it was discovered. The remains of Muhammad Amirul Haikal was then handed over to the police before being sent to the Tengku Ampuan Afzan Hospital for further action. Muhammad Amirul Haikal, who was a student at Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Mat Kilau, was reported missing while bathing with 6 friends at 3:50 p.m. 4 men were sentenced to 16 years of prison after they were found guilty of raping a 12-year-old girl 3 years ago. The verdict was delivered by Kuala Terengganu Sessions Court Judge Noria Osman after the defence failed to raise any reasonable doubt on the charges. Muhammad Farizal Fauzi, 20, Tuan Muhammad Shafiq Tuan Ismail, 24, Muhammad Gardafi Abdullah, 23, and Ahmad Shah Herfuddin Omar, 26, were accused of committing the offence at a palm oil estate in Ketengah Jaya, Dungun on the 29th of September 2020. The charges were framed under Section 375B of the Penal Code. The court sentenced 3 of them to a 16 years jail term starting on the date they were convicted, while Ahmad Shah Herfuddin jail term began on the day he was arrested, which was 11th of October 2020. The prosecution team was led by Deputy Public Prosecutor Nur Nabiha Hanin Aim, while the accused were represented by Wan Sharizal Wan Ladin and Muhammad Sharil Majuso. Still ahead in our business segment, Works Ministry to ensure Pan-Borneo Highway project completion. The separation of the communications and digital ministries following the cabinet reshuffle is to focus specifically on the progress of the country's digital economy sector. Communications Minister Fahmi Fadil said there is a need to coordinate internal policies to empower the sector. He explained that the separation of the ministries came about following a discussion session he had with Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's team after finding several aspects that needed to be coordinated throughout his time helming the Communications and Digital Ministry, with the digital economy previously encompassing 4 ministries. Fahmi, meanwhile, also denied allegations that the separation of the ministries was to save his political career.
Ada beberapa pihak, sebagai contoh, mereka menuduh Fahmi Fadil gagal untuk laksanakan tugas sebagai Menteri Komunikasi dan Digital, maka dipecahkan dan diselamatkan nyawa politik saya. Ini sebenarnya tak betul. Ekonomi digital tu terlalu penting. Dijangkakan sumbangan ekonomi digital kepada KDNK menjelang 2025 mencecah 25.5%, 1/4 daripada semua KDNK kita. Maka ada keperluan dasar diselaraskan.
The minister also expects the final list for the placement of agencies under both ministries will be finalised by the end of next month. On another note, Fahmi said the 10% sales tax on online purchases is only applicable to imported goods valued under 500 ringgit. He said this was to enhance the competitiveness of local products which were not affected by the tax when bought online.
Antara lain ini untuk tingkatkan daya saing produk-produk tempatan dan tidak ada kesan kepada produk-produk dalam negara kita yang dibeli secara dalam talian. Jadi yang penting untuk dijelaskan, ia hanya terpakai untuk produk-produk yang diimport dari luar negara yang dijual secara dalam talian di Malaysia. Produk-produk dalam negara yang dihasilkan di Malaysia tidak terkesan dengan cukai ini.
Elaborating further on the matter, the minister said that the public can refer to the official website of the Customs Department for more detailed information, and from time to time, the ministry will carry out monitoring to make sure the people, especially sellers and buyers who carry out online transactions, really understand about the tax. The Royal Malaysian Customs Department announced yesterday that Malaysia will start charging a 10% sales tax on low-value goods sold online from the 1st of January next year. The Works Ministry, or KKR, will facilitate the implementation of development projects in the country as per instructed by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. Its Deputy Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Mazlan said this includes more attention towards Pan-Borneo Highway project that is yet to finish.
Kita akan selesaikan penganugerahan tendernya pada suku pertama 2024. Pertengahan tahun ini pakej untuk Pan Borneo di Sarawak selesai, tetapi di Sabah berlaku perkara teknikal yang menyebabkan dia tidak sepantas Pan Borneo Sarawak.
He said this when met at the launching of Pineapple Hybrid Project at the Mardi Research Station in Pontian. On the 7th of December, Datuk Seri Anwar has urged development projects for the Sabahans involving water and electrical supplies, as well as the Pan-Borneo Highway, to be expedited without any excuses. Now, the ringgit is expected to trend higher next week following the positive effects of China's latest domestic stimulus and a pivot in the US Federal Reserve, or the Fed, policy stance. SBI Asset Management Managing Partner Stephen In said the ringgit should rally more on the great monetary pivot of 2024, especially when combined with China's recent move to infuse a record amount of cash into its economy. He said China's moves are aligned with a renewed commitment to supporting its property sector, delivering a more potent stimulus message to investors disillusioned with previous fragmented approaches. Now, In said that as China is Malaysia's biggest export destination, any stimulation to its domestic economy would, in theory, increase Malaysia's exports. He said the degree to which regional investors embrace China's stimulus would help drive the ringgit's performance next week. Bank Muamalah Malaysia Chief Economist Dr. Muhammad Abzanizam Abdul Rashid, meanwhile, believes the ringgit might attempt to break the immediate support of 4.6611 next week, as the Fed is expected to cut interest rates next year. He said the main focus now is on the Japanese yen, as the Bank of Japan is expected to ditch its ultra-loose monetary policy sometime in January next year. Now, Adila said improving catalysts and global optimism are expected to keep Bursa Malaysia on positive territory next week. Rakuten Trade Equity Research Vice President Tong Pak Leng said from a technical perspective, the week had seen the benchmark index close higher than its opening levels each trading day. He said considering the 20-day exponential moving average or EMA line turning upwards and pushing further away from both the 20-day and 50-day EMA lines, Rakuten believes there is upward momentum in the near term. Meanwhile, Bank Muamalah Malaysia Berhad Chief Economist Dr. Muhammad Abzanizam Abdul Rashid said the cabinet reshuffle may have also lifted sentiment, as the move indicates the seriousness of the present administration's intention to enact economic reforms. Bursa Malaysia kicked off the week just ended on a cautious mode as investors anticipated the outcome of the Federal Open Market Committee or FOMC meeting on the 12th to the 13th of December, as well as digesting Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's announcement of a cabinet reshuffle. Now, following the FOMC meeting, the market cheered the dovish meeting outcome in which the Fed maintained its interest rate and anticipated 3 rate decreases in 2024. The rubber market is expected to trade range-bound next week with a slight tendency to rise, primarily due to a tight supply situation. Malaysian Rubber Glove Manufacturers Association past President Dennis Low said incessant rainfalls in rubber-producing regions have led to subdued latex production, resulting in a shortage of bulk latex. Now, Low also pointed out that the latest data released on Friday by the National Bureau of Statistics showed that China's industrial output grew by 6.6% in November year-on-year, outpacing the 4.6% gain in October. On another note, Low emphasized the importance of caution regarding fluctuations in oil prices and the volatile United States dollar, as they may impact prices and demand. In the week just ended, the local rubber market intensified, influenced by the performance of regional rubber futures and fluctuations in crude oil prices. On a Friday-to-Friday basis, the Malaysian Rubber Board or MRB reference price for standard Malaysian rubber 20 or SMR 20 edged up 10.5 cent to close the week at 672.5 cent per kilogram versus 662 cent per kilogram a week earlier. At 5 p.m. on Friday, the MRB reference price for physical rubber SMR 20 stood at 671 cent per kilogram, while latex in bulk was at 536.5 cent per kilogram. Now, several economists have given a rosy outlook on China's emerging industries such as the artificial intelligence and low-carbon sectors, while expressing their general optimism about the country's macro economy. The Economist said that with achieving a green and low-carbon transition becoming a global issue, the green potential of the Chinese market provides unprecedented opportunities for global investors. According to the Business Confidence Survey 2023 by European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, 95% of the surveyed companies plan to decarbonize their operations in China by 2050, and 46% intend to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. Now, these green and low carbon projects are also new directions for foreign companies to invest in China. In fact, these new production potentials, whether in China or abroad, are broadly applicable. In addition, foreign investment institutions are also very optimistic about China's international competitiveness in scientific and technological innovation, as China has established its role as a major player in the application and circulation of artificial intelligence. A research institute of the Bank of Korea said that South Korea may be forced to record negative economic growth in the 2040s unless the nation improves its productivity, as its working age population is rapidly shrinking. According to Yonhap News Agency, the Bank of Korea's Economic Research Institute expected South Korea's economy to grow some 2.1% in the 2020s and some 0.6% in the 2030s, but to shrink some 0.1% in 2040s. The assessment by Cho Tae-hyung, vice head of the institute, was based on an assumption that South Korea may fail to improve its productivity to make up for a decline in the working age population. Now, if South Korea improves its productivity to cope with a demographic change, the report predicted that the nation's economy would grow some 2.4% in the 2020s, some 0.9% in the 2030s, and some 0.2% in the 2040s. Now, Cho further said it is most important to keep productivity growth to mitigate future slowdowns in economic growth. The Bank of Korea has recently projected South Korea's economy to grow 1.4% for all of 2023, down from a 2.6% expansion last year. Coming up in our foreign segment, thousands urged to higher ground as Australia battles floods. Now, Australian authorities urge thousands of people in North Queensland state to move to higher ground because of the danger of flooding from torrential rains. Emergency services said major flooding had particularly hit the northeastern city of Cairns, a tourist hub and gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. The region's rivers were already saturated after tropical cyclone Jasper battered the region this week, submerging highways and uprooting trees. Meteorologist Laura Burkle said that some areas of Queensland had seen more than 600 millimeters of rain in the previous 24 hours. Rapidly rising water had also closed Cairns Airport, which was expected to see flooding exceeding the record level seen after a cyclone in 1977. Now, with flood warnings issued for several days, Queensland Premier Stephen Miles warned that a weather emergency was playing out. Around 10,500 people were without power across Queensland. Frequent flooding has hit Australia's east in recent years, including once-in-a-century floods that inundated neighbouring Northern Territory in January during a multi-year La Nina weather event. Now, South Korea came under the grip of the season's coldest weather today, with the morning lows plummeting to negative 12.4 degrees Celsius in Seoul. The weather agency said the Daewalyeong district in Gangwon province saw the temperature drop to morning lows of negative 16.8 degrees Celsius and a sensible temperature of nearly negative 29.7 degrees Celsius today. A total of 12 flights were cancelled and another 30 flights were delayed on the southern resort island of Jeju this morning amid the cold wave and heavy snow. The flight cancellations at the Jeju airport came a day after the Korea Meteorological Administration issued heavy snow warnings for the country's central and western areas. The Meteorological Administration predicted temperatures will drop further tomorrow morning, with the morning lows in the capital expected to be between negative 18 degrees Celsius to negative 3 degrees Celsius. Now, Serbians headed to the polls in elections that will likely see populist President Alexander Vucic's ruling party extend its rule as a strongman promised stability and vowed to curb inflation after months of protests. Even though Vucic will not be on the ballot in the parliamentary and local elections, the contest will nevertheless be largely seen as a referendum on his government. According to a latest poll, Vucic's right-wing populist Serbian Progressive Party has a double-digit lead over the leading opposition coalition. But the party faces hard-fought municipal races in the capital Belgrade, particularly from the loose coalition of opposition parties and candidates running under the Serbia Against Violence banner. Now, the movement was formed in the wake of back-to-back mass shootings earlier this year that spurred hundreds of thousands to take to the streets. The rallies quickly morphed into anti-government protests that lasted months. Vucic has repeatedly dismissed his critics and the protests as a foreign plot, warning that Serbia would be directionless without him. Next up in sports, Malaysia hit target in World Team Squash Championship. Now, Malaysia ended their campaign in the 11th position in the Men's World Team Squash Championship, MWTC, after defeating Australia 2-0 in the 11th and 12th place classification match in Tauranga, New Zealand today. In the action at the Mercury Bay Park Arena, 24-year-old Sanjay Jiva, who is based in the United States, earned the first point for Malaysia by defeating Dylan Molinaro 11-2, 7-11, 11-5, 11-7. The country's second-ranked player, Adine Idraki Bhatia, ensured the Squash Racket Association of Malaysia, or SRAM, goal to finish the championship in the top 12 after defeating Reese Dowling 5-11, 11-6, 11-17, 11-9, contributing the winning point. Meanwhile, SRAM Director of Coaching, Major Retired S. Maniam, said that the achievements of his team signal that squash sports can continue to shine in upcoming tournaments. He added many things need to be improved to elevate the players to the next level. Nevertheless, he said finishing the competition in 11th place successfully surpassed SRAM's previous target of the top 12. Now, the last Super League match between Sabah FC and Kedah Darul Aman FC, or KDA-FC, at Stadium Likas tonight will be the final match of former national striker Muhammad Amri Yahya's professional football career. Sabah FC conveyed its appreciation to the player, who is better known as Wak Am, and thanked him for his loyalty and contributions throughout his 3 seasons with the team. The club also mentioned that he was so well loved by local fans that he had gained the moniker Ketua Kampung Likas. It's said in the time he spent with Sabah FC, Muhammad Amri never stopped being a role model for other players and displayed strong commitment and determination when playing.
Beliau akan bersarah daripada professional football dan beliau merupakan seorang pemain yang cukup berpengalaman, dan saya percaya esok dengan adanya Amri pasti para penyokong boleh mendapatkan memberikan sesuatu di mana penting bukan saja pasal Amri, tetapi kita inginkan penyokong datang untuk membantu kita memberi lebih motivasi pada pemain.
Muhammad Amri began his football career representing Selangor in 2001. Besides Sabah, he also played for several teams including Melaka United, Sarawak United and Johor Darul Takzim, JDT. And that's it for Malaysia Tonight. In our top story, ASEAN-Japan partnership vital in navigating global poly crisis. Do tune in to World Today, coming up tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. on TV2. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Jessica Lee, Malaysia Madani, tekad perpaduan penuhi harapan. Thank you for watching.